You think you are just tired. You think the weight on your shoulders is just the result of a bad week or a string of unfortunate events in this crumbling economy. But you are wrong. What you are feeling right now is not exhaustion. It is the friction of being a chosen one in a world that is designed to keep you a slave to the status quo. Let's be honest. Look around you. Most people are content to just drift. They wake up. They consume what the mainstream media feeds them. They work jobs that drain their souls. And they never, ever dare to step out of the shadows. But not you. Something happened. Something shifted inside your spirit. You took a step, a single, terrifying, lonely step that most people in your neighborhood, in your workplace, or even in your own family would never take. Maybe you walked away from a toxic situation that everyone else told you to tolerate. Maybe you decided to speak a truth that made you the villain in someone else's story. Or maybe you simply chose to believe in a higher calling when the world told you to just shut up and follow the herd. Whatever that step was, it felt like jumping off a cliff without a parachute. It felt like total isolation. But here is the truth they don't want you to know. While the world was mocking you, while the elites were looking down on you, and while your peers were whispering behind your back, the creator of the universe was watching. And he wasn't just watching, he was smiling. Because that step you took, that was the ultimate test. We live in a time of massive crisis. Our values are under attack. Our families are being targeted by globalist agendas that want to strip away our identity and our faith. Most people are too scared to even acknowledge it. They bow their heads. They comply. They stay quiet because they are afraid of losing their comfort. But you sacrificed your comfort for your conviction. You chose the narrow path. Do you realize how rare that is? In a country of over 330 million people, the number of individuals who truly possess the courage to act on faith is shrinking every single day. But you stood up. You refused to be a victim. You decided to take control of your destiny, even when the odds were stacked against you. I want you to think about that moment of decision, that split second where you could have played it safe. But you didn't. You felt the heat. You felt the pressure, and you stepped into the fire anyway. Most people would have folded. They would have crumbled under the weight of the social pressure. They would have apologized for their strength. But you stood your ground. This isn't just about self-help or motivation. This is about a spiritual counterattack. When you take a step that aligns with God's purpose, you aren't just changing your life, you are reclaiming territory from the enemy. You are saying, I will not be governed by fear. And that makes you a threat to the establishment. It makes you a target for those who profit from your silence. But why now? Why did this happen to you in this specific season? The facts are undeniable. We are witnessing a total collapse of traditional structures. The job market is volatile, the culture is confused, and people are desperate for a leader who isn't afraid to speak the truth. By taking that step, you have positioned yourself as a lighthouse in a storm. God isn't looking for the perfect. He isn't looking for the most educated by the standards of the Ivy League elites. He is looking for the bold. He is looking for the ones who are willing to be misunderstood for the sake of what is right. You might feel like a loner right now. You might feel like you lost everything by taking that step. But let me tell you something. You didn't lose. You were being pruned. Every person who walked away from you, every door that slammed in your face, and every friend who disappeared was just a weight being removed so you could run faster. God is pleased with you because you showed him that your faith is more than just words on a Sunday morning. You proved it with your feet. You proved it with your actions. While others were praying for a change they weren't willing to work for, you became the change. But here's the real question. What happens next? Is this the end of the journey? Or is this just the first move in a much larger master plan? Because the step you took wasn't just a random act of bravery. It was a catalyst. It set off a chain reaction in the spiritual realm that is about to manifest in your physical world. You are about to see why the struggle was necessary. You are about to understand why you had to walk through that valley of isolation. The forces of opposition want you to turn back. They want you to regret your decision. They want you to think you made a mistake. They want to gaslight you into believing that being normal and compliant is the only way to survive. But they are lying. The most dangerous person in the world is a chosen one who has finally realized their power. And you, my friend, are just beginning to wake up to that reality. The step you took didn't just please God, it terrified the darkness. And if you think the first step was intense, wait until you see where the second one leads, because the path doesn't get easier, but the rewards become greater than you could ever imagine. You are being prepared for a victory that will leave your enemies speechless. But before we get into the details of that victory, we need to look at the specific trap that was set for you right after you moved. Because the moment you took that step, a new crisis emerged. A crisis designed to make you doubt everything you just did. The moment your foot hit the ground on that new path, something changed. You probably expected a celebration. You expected the heavens to open and a choir to sing. But instead, it got quiet. Dead quiet. And then, the resistance started. This is the part of the journey that no one tells you about in those shallow, feel-good sermons. They talk about the blessing, but they never talk about the crisis that follows the courage. Think back to the days immediately following your big decision. Suddenly, people you thought were your allies began to question your sanity. You were called difficult. You were called radical. Maybe you even faced a sudden financial hit or a health scare that seemed to come out of nowhere. This wasn't a coincidence. It was a calculated attempt to make you retreat. Because when you took a step that most people would never take, you didn't just move forward, you broke a spiritual contract with the world. For years, you played by the rules. You followed the script written by the globalist elite, the HR departments, and the social engineers who want a predictable, controllable population. You stayed in your lane, but the second you shifted, you became a glitch in their system. The system hates what it cannot control. But here is the logic that will change your entire perspective. The intensity of the resistance you are facing is the ultimate social proof of your calling. If you were a nobody, if you were just another sheep in the herd, the enemy wouldn't waste his ammunition on you. You don't send a battalion to fight a shadow. You send it to stop a threat. The fact that life got harder the moment you tried to do better is proof that you are a chosen one. Let's look at the facts. In the book of Matthew, chapter 7, verses 13 to 14, it says, "Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the road that leads to destruction. And many enter through it, but small is the gate, and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it." Most of the people you know are on the 10-lane highway. It's paved. It's well lit. There are plenty of rest stops and snacks, but it leads to a dead end. You chose the dirt road. It's uphill. It's rocky. There's no cell service, but that road leads to the throne room of God. I want to talk to those of you who lost your jobs because you wouldn't compromise your values. I want to talk to the parents who pulled their kids out of failing schools to protect their minds, even when the neighbors whispered. I want to talk to the business owners who refused to lie on their taxes or cut corners to please the board. You took a step that required a level of intestinal fortitude that is extinct in modern society. You see, the average person in America today is paralyzed by fear. They are afraid of being cancelled. They are afraid of losing their 401k. They are afraid of what some stranger on the internet thinks of them. Fear is the currency of this age. But by taking that step, you declared yourself bankrupt in the currency of fear. You switched your wealth to the currency of faith, and that is why God is pleased. Faith isn't a feeling you get during a worship song. Faith is the cold, hard action you take when every logical bone in your body tells you to stay put. It is the strategic counterattack against the spirit of the age. While the elite are busy trying to redefine reality and strip away our freedoms, you are busy building a life on the rock. But here is where the twist comes in. Many of you feel like you are being punished. You look at your bank account, or you look at your empty living room, and you think, did I hear God wrong? No, you heard him perfectly. What you are experiencing right now is the pruning phase. Think about a master gardener in the rolling hills of Virginia. When he walks into his vineyard, he doesn't just look for what's dead. He cuts away what is living but unnecessary. He trims the branches that are taking up energy but aren't producing the maximum fruit. God is doing a master-level pruning on your life right now. He is removing the dead wood of toxic relationships. He is stripping away the excess weight of your old ego. He is making you lean, mean, and ready for the battle ahead. Most people can't handle the pruning. They cry. They beg for the old branches back. They want their old, comfortable, mediocre life because the new growth is taking too long. But you are different. You are a leader who dares to confront the darkness. You know that the pain of the cut is the promise of the harvest. The facts are undeniable. The world is changing at a rate we have never seen. The old guard is desperate. They are doubling down on their control. But they can't stop a man or woman who has nothing left to lose because they have already given it all to God. You took a step into the unknown, and in that unknown, you found something that the globalists and the elites can never buy with all their billions. You found clarity. You now see the world for what it really is. You see the lies. You see the manipulation. You see the social engineering for what it truly is, a cage. And because you are outside the cage, you can see the key. But don't get too comfortable in your newfound freedom just yet, because once you take the step, and once you survive the pruning, you move into the most dangerous and exciting part of the journey. This is where the master plan begins to reveal itself. You aren't just out here to survive. You weren't called to the wilderness just to wait for the end of the world. You were called to build an outpost. You were called to be the person that others run to when their wide road eventually collapses. And trust me, it is collapsing as we speak, every day. The headlines prove what we already know. The debt is mounting. The culture is fractured. The institutions are hollow. While the masses are distracted by their screens, the chosen ones are being trained in the secret places. You are in a heavenly boot camp. Your isolation isn't a prison sentence, it's a security clearance. God had to get you away from the noise so he could whisper the strategy into your ear. He had to make you unpopular so you wouldn't be tempted to compromise the mission for a round of applause. Are you beginning to see it now? The step you took wasn't an exit. It was an entrance. You stepped out of the world's burning building and into God's construction site. But there is a specific trap waiting for you in the next 48 hours. The enemy knows he can't stop your feet, so he's going to try to mess with your head. He's going to bring up your past. He's going to remind you of who you used to be before you took that step. He's going to try to convince you that you are an imposter. But here is how a Nyalandao Zamdoido handles an ambush. You don't argue with the lie. You outwork it. You lean harder into the mission. You double down on the very step that got you here in the first place. Because the next phase isn't about endurance, it's about dominion. It's time to stop wondering if God is pleased and start acting like you know he is. It's time to move from "I hope I make it" to "I am the one God sent to turn this around." But before we unlock the blueprint for your new life, there is one final piece of the puzzle you must understand. It involves a twist that most people never see coming until it's too late. Now, we need to address the twist. This is the moment where the hunter becomes the hunted, or rather, where the world thinks you are trapped. But in reality, you are the one setting the stage for a massive spiritual takeover. Most people who take that initial step of faith eventually hit a wall. They reach a point where the initial excitement wears off. The bank account is still thin, and the friends who left haven't come crawling back yet. This is the Valley of Shadows, and this is exactly where the enemy expects you to quit. But here is the secret strategy of a Nyalandao Zamdoido. In the eyes of the globalist establishment and the secular elites, your isolation looks like a failure. They see your narrow path, and they laugh. They think you are out of the loop, behind the times, or losing your edge. They see a man or woman who walked away from the corporate ladder or the social scene, and they think they're finished. But they don't understand the master plan. When a commander in the field wants to launch a devastating counterattack, the first thing he does is pull his best troops back from the front lines. He brings them into a secure, hidden location. Why to rearm them? To give them fresh intelligence, to show them the maps that the enemy hasn't seen yet. Your period of loneliness and struggle isn't a sign that you've been sidelined. It's a sign that you've been promoted to a special operations unit. God is not a God of coincidences. He is a God of precision. Look at the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 22, verse 2. It tells the story of David when he was hiding in the cave of Adullam. He had taken the step. He had been anointed, but instead of sitting on a throne, he was sitting in a dark, damp cave. And who showed up? All those who were in distress or in debt or discontented gathered around him, and he became their commander. Do you see the pattern? God took a man with a kingly calling and put him in a place of total failure by the world's standards. But in that cave, David wasn't just hiding. He was building an army out of the forgotten and the outcasts. He was training the mighty men who would eventually topple a corrupt regime and rebuild a nation. You took a step most people would never take, and now you find yourself in your own version of that cave. Maybe you're working a lesser job. Maybe you're living in a smaller house. Maybe your social circle has shrunk to just a handful of people. The elites in their ivory towers, the ones who want to control your health, your money, and your children's education. They think they've won. They think they've successfully cancelled you. They think they've pushed you to the margins where you can't do any damage to their agenda. But they are walking into a trap. While they are busy celebrating their control, you are becoming unstoppable. You are learning to hear the voice of the creator without the static of the mainstream media. You are learning to survive and thrive on the manna of divine providence rather than the crumbs of the government's table. You are becoming a Na Landau Dam Doido, someone who doesn't wait for a permission slip from the establishment to act. The facts are undeniable. The systems we used to trust are failing. The educational system is a factory for indoctrination. The financial system is a house of cards built on debt. The political system is a theater of puppets. Every safety net the world offered you is being shredded. But you already let go of the net. You already took the leap. This means that when the great collapse happens, and let's be honest, we can all see the cracks in the foundation, you won't be panicking. You will be the one with the blueprint. You will be the one who knows how to find water in the desert. You will be the one who can lead your family and your community because you've already been living in the future kingdom, while everyone else was clinging to a dying empire. God is pleased because you surrendered the illusion of security for the reality of his sovereignty. Most people are terrified of losing their status. They will sell their souls to keep a title or a corner office. They will stay silent while evil flourishes just so they don't lose their seat at the table. But you realized that the table was rigged. You realized that the food at that table was poisoned. So you walked away, and now God is preparing a table for you in the presence of your enemies. I want you to understand the level of authority that is being forged in you right now. Authority isn't given. It is grown through resistance. Just like a muscle only grows when it is pushed against a weight it cannot easily lift. Your spiritual authority is growing because you are pushing against the entire weight of a godless culture. Every time you choose to pray instead of worry, your authority grows. Every time you choose to give when you're low, your authority grows. Every time you choose to speak the truth when it's inconvenient, your authority grows. The step you took was just the beginning of your training. Now you are in the master class. The enemy wants to keep you focused on what you lost. He wants you to count the friends you don't have anymore. He wants you to look at the opportunities that passed you by. He wants you to feel like a victim of your own integrity. But Anya Langdao Zam Doido knows that integrity is the ultimate investment. You didn't lose those opportunities. You escaped them. They were golden handcuffs designed to keep you from your true destiny. If you had stayed, you would have been successful by the world's standards, but you would have been hollow by God's standards. You would have had the view from the top, but you wouldn't have had the view from the throne. The real question you should be asking isn't, why is this so hard? The real question is, what am I being prepared for? Because the step you took has positioned you for a transformation that is about to go viral in your own life. People are going to see the peace you have in the middle of the chaos. They are going to see the provision you have when the shelves are empty. They are going to see the strength you have when everyone else is crumbling under the weight of anxiety. And they are going to ask you, how? That is your moment. That is the payoff. But to get there, you have to survive the counterintelligence phase. The enemy is going to send messengers to try and convince you to go back. They will come in the form of concerned relatives, old friends, or even religious leaders who are more concerned with fitting in than standing out. They will tell you to be reasonable. They will tell you to compromise just a little bit. They will try to lure you back into the wide road by offering you a shortcut to success. Do not listen to them. The facts are clear. There are no shortcuts in the kingdom. There is only the path, and you are on it. You are a chosen one. You are the one who took the step. You are the one who stood up when the world told you to sit down. And because you did, You have entered into a covenant of protection that the world cannot touch. But here is the real twist that the enemy never saw coming. You aren't just out here to save yourself. You are out here to build the Ark. While the elites are building their bunkers in New Zealand, thinking they can hide from the consequences of their own actions, you are building a spiritual bunker that is open to anyone with the courage to follow your lead. But before we talk about the master plan for your victory, we have to talk about the final hurdle. It's the hurdle of perception. How you see yourself in this moment will determine if you enter the promised land or if you die in the wilderness. Are you a refugee or are you a revolutionary? Because the way God sees you is very different from the way you see yourself in the mirror right now. The world loves to label people. It's how they manage the masses. Right now, the system has labeled you as a dropout, a failure, or perhaps just irrelevant. And if you aren't careful, you will start to believe them. You will look at your reflection and see a refugee, someone who fled a toxic situation and is now just wandering, trying to survive the fallout of their own integrity. But I am here to tell you that from the perspective of heaven, you are not a refugee. You are a revolutionary. There is a fundamental difference in how these two identities operate. A refugee is constantly looking backward, mourning what they lost, and hoping someone will give them a handout or a safe place to hide. But a revolutionary looks at the ruins and sees the raw materials for a new kingdom. A revolutionary doesn't want a safe space. They want a strategic advantage. You took a step most people would never take because you had a revolutionary spirit birthed in you by the Creator himself. You realized that you couldn't fix a broken house while living inside it. You had to step out to see the blueprint. Most Americans today are living in a state of cognitive dissonance. They see the corruption in the global elite structures. They feel the weight of the totalitarian creep in our culture, and they know in their gut that something is deeply wrong. But they stay. They stay because they are addicted to the comfort of the cage. They are like the Israelites in Egypt who complained about the work but missed the leeks and onions the moment things got difficult in the desert. But you decided that freedom was worth the hunger. You decided that truth was worth the isolation. And here is the reality. God cannot use a man or woman who is still dependent on the system he is trying to judge. If you are still waiting for a stimulus check or a corporate promotion to feel secure, you are still a hostage. But the moment you took that step, the moment you said, God, if I have to walk this path alone, I will. You became a free agent. You became a Na Landau Dam Doido. You shifted your dependency from the digital currency of the world to the eternal currency of the kingdom. This is why the enemy is so desperate to change your perception. If he can make you feel like a victim, he wins. Victims don't build. Victims don't lead. Victims just wait for things to happen to them. But look at the social proof throughout history. Look at the men and women who actually changed the world. Were they the ones who were comfortable? Were they the ones who were liked by the mainstream media of their day? Absolutely not. Think about the prophet Elijah. In 1 Kings, chapter 19, he was sitting under a broom bush, feeling like a failure, asking God to take his life. He felt like the only one left who hadn't bowed the knee to the corrupt regime of Ahab and Jezebel. He saw himself as a refugee, but God didn't coddle him. God gave him a meal and told him to get back to work. Why? Because Elijah wasn't a refugee. He was the key to an entire national shift. He had kings to anoint and a successor to train. You feel like you are at your lowest point, but in reality, you are at your most dangerous point for the enemy. The facts are undeniable. The most influential movements in human history started with a handful of people who were willing to be wrong in the eyes of the world so they could be right in the eyes of God. God is pleased with you because you broke the spirit of compliance. In a world that demands you bow the knee to every new ideological fad and every authoritarian mandate, you stood tall. You took a step toward the light when everyone else was retreating into the shadows of political correctness. But let's talk about the master plan for a moment. Do you think God called you out just to let you rot in the wilderness? Do you think the creator of the stars, the one who holds the economy of the universe in his hands, is worried about your lack of connections? He is the one who creates connections, but he only creates them once the old, toxic ones are fully purged. You are currently in the recalibration phase. Your ears are being tuned to a different frequency. You are learning to distinguish between the noise of the crowd and the whisper of the spirit. This is a skill that 99% of the population has lost. They are so busy scrolling, so busy reacting to the latest crisis of the week, that they have no internal compass. But you are developing a compass of steel every day that you spend in this narrow path. Your intuition is getting sharper. Your discernment is getting stronger. You are starting to see the brap before it even happens. You see the false narratives from a mile away. You are becoming a Na Landau Dam Doido who can navigate a storm without a map because you know the captain of the ship. Don't let the elites or the social engineers fool you. They are terrified of people like you. They don't mind religious people as long as those people stay inside their four walls and don't interfere with the agenda, but they are deathly afraid of chosen ones who take their faith into the streets, into their businesses, and into the very fabric of their lives. They are afraid of people who can't be bought. They are afraid of people who can't be shamed. They are afraid of people who are God-pleased instead of people-pleased. By taking that step, you have removed the leash that the world had on you. You might feel exposed or vulnerable right now, but that is actually the feeling of unrestricted power. Imagine a lion that has been in a zoo its whole life. It gets fed every day at 4 p.m. It has a heated floor. It's safe, but it's not a lion. It's a caricature of a lion. Then, one day, the gate is left open and the lion steps out into the savannah. It's hot. It's dusty. It doesn't know where its next meal is coming from. Most people would look at that lion and say, "Poor thing, it's lost its security." But the lion knows better. For the first time in its life, it feels the wind in its mane. For the first time, it has to hunt. For the first time, it is actually a lion. You are that lion. The corporate zoo, the social zoo, the religious zoo, they are behind you now. You are in the wild. And yes, it's dangerous. But it is also where the miracles happen. You don't need a miracle when you have a paycheck and a guaranteed contract. You need a miracle when you are in the wild. And God is a specialist in wilderness miracles. He is the one who brings water from the rock. He is the one who brings manna from the sky. He is the one who makes up air where there is no way. But he only does it for the ones who are out there. He doesn't send manna to the zoo. The step you took wasn't just a good idea, it was a divine requirement. And because you fulfilled that requirement, you have now qualified for a level of supernatural provision that most Christians will only ever read about in books. But there is a final layer to this strategy. It's the master move that will turn your isolation into impact. Because the chosen one isn't just someone who escapes. The chosen one is someone who returns with the solution. But before you can return, you have to master the internal architecture of your new life. You have to build the structure that can hold the weight of the blessing that is coming. Because if God gave you the millions or the platform right now, it would crush you. You are being reinforced in the secret place. The facts are clear. The pressure you are feeling is not meant to break you. It is meant to compress you into a diamond. And diamonds are the only thing that can cut through the hardened lies of this generation. Are you ready to see the master plan in its entirety? Are you ready to move from testing to triumph? Because the next phase is where the payoff becomes visible to everyone, including the ones who doubted you. We have reached the moment of the master plan. You have survived the crisis, you have endured the pruning, and you have reclaimed your identity as a revolutionary. Now, it is time to understand the strategy of the return. You see, God never calls a chosen one out of the system just to keep them in a cave forever. He pulls you out to deprogram you, to rearm you, and then he sends you back not as a slave, but as a conqueror. This is the strategic counterattack that the globalist architects and the secular elites never see coming. They think that once they've pushed you to the margins, you're no longer a threat. They think that because you aren't verified on their platforms or certified by their institutions, you have no power. But they are operating on an outdated map. They are playing checkers, while the creator of the universe is playing 4D chess through your life. Let's look at the facts of how this world actually works. The systems of the global elite are built on a foundation of fragile lies. They rely on your participation, your fear, and your compliance to function. When you took that step that most people would never take, you withdrew your spiritual energy from their machine. You created a vacuum. And now, as the world systems begin to crack under the weight of their own corruption, people are going to start looking for someone that is real. They are tired of the manufactured crisis. They are tired of the fake authenticity. They are tired of the spiritless religion that has no power to change a life. When the storm hits its peak, they won't go to the experts who lied to them. They will go to the person who stood their ground. They will go to the one who has the peace that surpasses all understanding. They will go to you. But here is the catch. You cannot lead them if you are still trying to look like them. The master plan requires you to be totally distinct. In the book of Daniel, chapter 1, we see a perfect example of this. Daniel and his friends were chosen ones, taken into the heart of a godless empire, Babylon. They were pressured to eat the king's food, to consume the propaganda, to adopt the culture, to lose their identity. But they took a step most people would never take. They refused. They chose a different path, a different diet, a different loyalty. And what was the result? The facts are undeniable. After the period of testing, they were found to be 10 times better than all the experts and magicians in the entire kingdom. They didn't get ahead by fitting in. They got ahead by being God-pleased and Spirit-led. You are in your 10 times better training phase right now. Every prayer you whisper in the dark, every sacrifice you make that no one sees, and every time you choose integrity over a quick win, you are adding another layer of heavenly reinforcement to your life. You are building a parallel infrastructure. While the world is building a Tower of Babel that is destined to fall, you are building a city on a hill. God is pleased because you are demonstrating the principle of dominion. Dominion isn't about ruling over people in a worldly, tyrannical sense. Dominion is about being so grounded in your divine purpose that the environment starts to change to match you, rather than you changing to match the environment. You took the step, you faced the fire, and now the smell of smoke is leaving your clothes. Think about the American spirit, the true, rugged, faith-filled spirit that built this country. It wasn't built by people who waited for government permission. It was built by people who had a Bible in one hand and a tool in the other. People who believed that God was their ultimate provider. You are a modern-day pioneer. You are reclaiming the territory that the managed society tried to steal from your soul. But there is a specific twist in the master plan that you need to be ready for. Soon, the very people who mocked you will come to you for help. The very friends who ghosted you will reach out because their secure world is falling apart. The very family members who called you crazy will ask you for advice on how to survive the coming shifts. How will you respond? A leader who dares to confront challenges doesn't respond with, "I told you so." A leader who dares to confront challenges responds with provision and power. You are being prepared to be a Joseph in a time of famine. Joseph took a step of integrity that landed him in a pit and then a prison. It looked like a total collapse. It looked like he was a victim of his brother's jealousy and a woman's lies. But it was all a master plan to position him as the only person who could save the known world. He had to go through the isolation to learn the strategy. If Joseph had stayed the favorite son in his father's house, he would have been just another spoiled nomad. He had to be cancelled to be called. He had to lose his coat of many colors to gain the signet ring of a nation. The step you took, the one that cost you so much, was just God taking away your coat so he could give you his authority. Do you feel the weight of that? This isn't a game. This is the end game of your training. The world is entering a season of great shaking. Everything that can be shaken will be shaken. The global institutions, the financial markets, the cultural icons, they are all on shaky ground. But you took a step onto the rock. The facts are undeniable. When everything else falls, only what is built on the rock will remain. You are becoming a point of stability in a world of chaos. And that, my friend, is the ultimate payoff. But before we reach the conclusion, before we reveal the final call to action that will seal your victory, you must deal with the last temptation, the temptation to settle. The enemy knows he can't stop you from being a chosen one, so he will try to make you a comfortable chosen one. He will offer you a mid-level blessing to make you stop climbing. He will give you just enough success to make you think the journey is over. But a leader who dares to confront challenges knows that the peak is still ahead. You didn't take that terrifying first step just to end up in a slightly better cage. You took it to be totally free. God is pleased with your progress, but he is jealous for your full potential. He wants to see what happens when a chosen one fully realizes that the system has no power over them. He wants to see the master plan manifest in a way that makes the elites tremble and the humble rejoice. You are the master plan in motion. You are the strategic counterattack. Every mile you've walked on this narrow path has been recorded. Every tear you've shed in the valley of isolation has been collected. And now, the account is being settled. The balance is shifting. The world thinks it's in control of the narrative, But the author of life is about to write a plot twist that will leave the social engineers in total shock. And you? You have a front row seat. No, even better than that. You have a starring role. But there is one thing you must do before the curtain rises on the next act. It is the most important move of the entire master plan. It is the move that separates the dreamers from the deliverers. Are you ready for the final piece? Because the payoff isn't just about you. It's about the legacy you are about to create. We have arrived at the final stage of the master plan, the realization of legacy. You see, the step you took wasn't just a personal choice to improve your life. It was a generational intervention. Most people spend their entire lives trying to fit into a system that was designed to consume them. They work, they age, and they pass on a heritage of compliance and fear to their children. But by taking that one radical step, you have broken the generational curse of mediocrity. You have signaled to the spiritual realm that the buck stops with you. This is why the elites and the global architects are so obsessed with controlling the family unit and the education of the next generation. They know that if they can capture the perception of the youth, they own the future. But a chosen one who takes a step of faith creates a rupture in that control. You have demonstrated to everyone watching your children, your siblings, your neighbors that there is another way to live. You have shown them that you don't have to be a victim of the economy, the culture, or the government. You are a courageous leader who is building an inheritance that cannot be taxed, confiscated, or cancelled. Let's look at the technical accuracy of your current position. In the book of Genesis, chapter 26, we see the story of Isaac during a time of famine. The facts were undeniable. The land was dry. The global economy of that time was collapsing, and everyone else was fleeing to Egypt, the system of that day, for safety. But God told Isaac to stay. He told him to take a step that made zero sense to the experts. He told him to sow seeds in a desert. Most people would have laughed at Isaac. They would have called him irresponsible or denialist. But because he was God-pleased rather than peer-pleased, he took the step. And the Bible says he reaped 100-fold harvest in that same year. Why? Because the master plan isn't limited by the supply chain. It isn't limited by the Federal Reserve. It is limited only by your willingness to act on divine intelligence. God is pleased with you because you have become a vessel of honor by emptying yourself of the world's standard operating procedures. You have made room for the supernatural flow. But I want to challenge you on something. Now that you are on the other side of that first terrifying step, what are you going to do with your new authority? True authority is not meant to be hoarded. It is meant to be deployed. The strategic counterattack isn't just about you surviving the storm. It's about you becoming the one who can calm the storm for others. There are millions of Americans right now who are waking up. They are rubbing their eyes, realizing they've been lied to by the media elites and the corporate giants. They are scared, they are confused, and they are looking for a map. You are the map maker. Your struggle, your isolation, and your pruning phase were all part of the process of creating a reliable guide. You can't lead someone out of a forest you've never walked through yourself. You can't teach someone how to stand against cancel culture if you've never felt the sting of it. Every scar you've earned in this season is a credential for the ministry of the future. The facts of the matter are these. We are moving into an era where centralized power is going to face its greatest challenge. The The top-down control of the globalist agenda is being met by a bottom-up spiritual awakening, and the chosen ones are the nerves of this awakening. You are the communication lines. When you took that step, you became a node in a new, divine network. You are now connected to a super-intelligence that the world's most powerful AI, even something like Gemini or ChatGPT, can never touch. You have access to ancient wisdom that is 100% accurate, 100% of the time. But let's talk about the twist that happens at the very end. The world thinks the end game is about who has the most digital assets, or who has the most political influence. But the real end game is about whose image you bear. The system wants to brand you with its mark, a mark of ownership, of traceability, of total control. But God has already marked you with His seal. By taking that step of faith, you have made that seal visible to the spirit world. You have said, "I belong to the King, and my life is not for sale." This is the ultimate payoff, the peace you feel right now. That is the seal of God. The provision that keeps showing up at the 11th hour, that is the seal of God. The clarity you have while the world is going insane, that is the seal of God. You are a daring leader who has successfully navigated the transition. You have crossed the Red Sea of your old life, and while the pharaohs of the modern world are still chasing you with their regulations and their threats, the waters are about to close in on them. You don't need to look back anymore. The step you took, the one most people would never take, has landed you on holy ground. And on this ground, you don't struggle for victory, you operate from victory. The master plan is now fully in effect. The counterattack has been launched. And the enemy is in total disarray because he can't predict a person who follows the Holy Spirit. You are untraceable to the system because your logic doesn't come from this world. So, stand tall. Breathe in the air of freedom. Look at the horizon with the eyes of a conqueror. You have pleased the heart of God. You have honored the blood of your ancestors who fought for truth. And you have secured a future for those who will follow in your footsteps. The crisis is your chariot. The isolation is your inauguration. And the step was your salvation. But before we close this chapter, there is one final word, a word that connects your individual victory to the universal triumph of the kingdom. It is a word that will give you the strength of 10 for the days ahead. It is the word finish. Most people start things. They start diets. They start businesses. They start faith journeys. But very few finish. The chosen one is not defined by how they start. They are defined by their relentless persistence to see the mission through to the very end. You have taken the step. Now, take the territory. The facts are undeniable. The world is waiting for the manifestation of the sons and daughters of God. And the wait is finally over. You are here. And God is very, very pleased. We have covered a long distance in this journey today. We have looked at the anatomy of a step and the architecture of a master plan. But as we bring this conversation to a close, I want to speak directly to your heart, the part of you that still feels a little bit of the tremble from that step you took. The meaning of this story is simple, yet it is the most profound truth you will ever hear. Your obedience is the greatest form of worship. In a world that worships efficiency, status, and security, your decision to follow God into the unknown was an act of sacrificial love. You proved that God is enough, You proved that his word is more reliable than a bank statement or a government promise, and that, my friend, is why you are a chosen one. The lesson for us today is clear. Do not mistake your processing time for rejection. Just because the payoff didn't happen 5 minutes after you took the step doesn't mean it isn't coming. God is a master of timing. He is building something in you that can last for eternity. And eternity cannot be rushed. You are being tempered like steel. You are being refined like gold. If you are feeling the heat right now, remember that the refiner is sitting right next to the fire. He hasn't left you. He is watching the reflection in the gold. He only pulls it out when he can see his own face in it. The step you took has changed the trajectory of your family for the next 100 years. You have set a standard of courage that will be talked about by your grandchildren. They will say, "Because my grandfather stood up. I don't have to bow down. Because my mother took a step. I can run." That is the legacy of the chosen. But this journey doesn't end here. In fact, it is just getting started. The world is getting darker, but that only means your light is going to shine brighter. Do not be afraid of the darkness. The darkness is just the backdrop for your glory. We are building a community here, a community of revolutionaries, pioneers, and chosen ones who refuse to be silent and refuse to be controlled. We are the remnant that will rebuild the ruins. I want to hear from you. I want to know that I am not alone in this wilderness. If this message resonated with your spirit, if you felt the fire of truth in these words, I want you to do something right now. If you liked this video and you are ready to stand as a chosen one, please comment with the number 999 below. This is our signal, our way of saying we are aligned with the divine completion and fullness of God's plan. If you didn't feel the connection or you think I missed the mark, please comment with the number 0. I value your honesty. I want to improve this content so it can truly serve the kingdom, and your feedback helps me sharpen the sword. Or, if you have a specific story about the step you took, the one that cost you everything but gave you your soul, please leave a comment and share your perspective. Your story might be the mini hook that keeps someone else from giving up today. And finally, if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. This isn't about numbers for us, it's about strength. Every new subscriber is another soldier in the army of light. It gives me the motivation and the resources to keep digging for the truth and bringing these strategic briefings to you. Remember, you took a step most people would never take. You are the chosen one, and the creator of the universe is looking at you right now with a smile. The fight isn't over, it's just getting started. Stay bold, stay faithful, and most importantly, stay God-pleased. God bless you, and God bless America.